Welcome to the Red and Gold Report, your best source for weekly Chiefs news and updates. In this episode, we're going to be breaking down the Chiefs' recent preseason game. We're going to be talking about Travis Kelce's beard. For some reason, it made national news. We're going to be looking at camp being over, and we're going to be grading the Chiefs' safeties heading into the season. And hey, if you want your weekly Chiefs news brought to you by a guy whose first pair of shoulder pads were hand-me-downs from 1990s Chiefs corner Mark McMillan, well then you gotta subscribe right now to this channel. First up in recent Chiefs news, somehow the facial hair of Travis Kelce has become a national news headline, which is how you know we're still in the preseason. Travis has gone from looking like a hipster slash logger slash unemployed barista to instead looking like Alex Trebek to now looking like Will Ferrell in a made-for-TV movie about the life of Travis Kelce. But the truth is, I'm just jealous he can grow facial hair at all, which is why my face is always as smooth as my 3-year-old daughter's biceps. But in news that actually matters, the Chiefs played a preseason game against the Cardinals on Friday night. The Chiefs won 17-10, which, not a big deal. It's a preseason game. But the most exciting part of the night was the Chiefs' first team defense. I mean, they held a much hyped Cardinals offense to 4 straight 3-and-outs to open the game. 3 of those were against the Cardinals' first team offense. So it could not have gone any better for our starting defenders. But in preseason, of course, we're watching those players who help and hurt themselves in certain position and roster spot battles. So who helped themselves on Friday night? Well, not that he needs help, but Chris Jones moving from tackle to also playing end, that experiment is going really well. Jones got a great sack on an excellent offensive tackle in the third drive and another good run stop right at the line of scrimmage in the second quarter. Starting corner L'Jarius Sneed also played well. He had 2 good tackles near the line of scrimmage to start the game and played well in coverage. Creed Humphrey is also, he's looking great at center. I love how aggressive he is already as a rookie. He's taken charge. Backup wide receiver Darius Fountain had another good preseason game with 54 yards of receiving, including a 41-yard catch. He seems to be locking up one of those spots as the 5th or 6th receiver on the roster. Starting slot corner Mike Hughes had another good game with 2 passes defended, and he's good in special teams. And backup corner DeAndre Baker did well, also with 4 tackles and a pass deflected in the end zone. Backup running back Derek Gore might have gotten closer to a roster spot Friday night. He looked shifty and determined and led the team with 54 yards rushing and a nearly 7-yard average. And running back Darwin Thompson surprisingly played much better. He ran fast, he ran hard, and he even contributed in the passing game. He looked like his job was on the line, because it was. Embattled former starting safety Juan Thornhill had an absurdly amazing interception in his own end zone as he dove for the ball. And then Byron Pringle had a fantastic game with 63 yards, including a juggling catch at the end of the first quarter, a tight catch on a 3rd down, and a long pass down the middle of the field in traffic late in the second quarter. He should clearly find himself over Demarcus Robinson on the depth chart as the team's 3rd receiver and is probably pushing Hardman for 2nd. Okay, so on the other end of things, who hurt themselves Friday night? Well, speaking of receiver Demarcus Robinson, he didn't look great, including a pass drop in the second quarter and a few plays where he held the ball carelessly away from his body and he just didn't get upfield. He got too cute. Running back Darrell Williams played poorly as well. He carried the ball twice for just 2 yards and he looked really slow. Mahomes, yeah, I know, don't want to go there, but he placed several balls too far out in front of players in the first quarter and threw an unnecessary interception in the second quarter. You know what? He's the best player in the league. Everybody has off nights, and thank you that he is just getting it out of his system in a preseason game. Backup linebacker Ben Neiman did not help himself. He had a bad missed tackle and a few times where he just kind of got washed out of the play on blocks that looked pretty easy against him. Backup safety Devon Key hurt himself, allowing his second big receiving touchdown in 2 games. He was a great story in camp, moved way up the depth chart as an undrafted rookie, but man, that doesn't look good so far in preseason. But speaking of hurting themselves, what is up with Mahomes being in the preseason game into the second quarter? I mean, on that play where he was diving for the first down, wow, my heart just skipped a beat. That was awful. I don't want to see that. Let's get him out of the game a little sooner, right? I don't want to see him hurt. Now, that's who helped and hurt themselves Friday night. But one other player to mention was receiver Mecole Hardman. Now, to start the game, he clearly was just not on the same page as Mahomes. They even got into a little discussion, which is why he only ended the game with 4 catches on 8 targets. However, he did have a highlight reel catch in the second quarter off of his shoestrings. It was awesome. In other news, a few days ago, the Chiefs made their first wave of roster cuts during the preseason to comply with the NFL Max roster numbers. Tight end Evan Galis, defensive back Manny Patterson, and wide receiver Antonio Callaway were all waived, while running back Elijah McGuire and wide receiver Chad Williams were placed on injured reserve. Now, the only one of these that is something to discuss is Antonio Callaway. Callaway had a great season a bit back with the Browns, but was out of the league with some, let's call them, unsavory off-field issues. I was really hoping he might be a sleeper pick for a surprise contributor, but injuries were keeping him off the field, and there were some other receivers playing well, so he was cut. In other Chiefs news, the Chiefs wrapped up training camp on Wednesday, the 18th at Missouri Western State. The 2 big pieces of news out of camp were that no one was injured, and the new offensive line seems to be gelling. Back in the day, the Chiefs players had to spend a solid month sleeping in the same Wisconsin dormitory as Marty Schottenheimer. I slept in that dormitory. Wasn't nice, but it was team building. But now it seems like they just sleep over at Andy Reid's place for a couple weeks and, training camp's over. It's so much shorter these days. I would not feel bad for them, except it is in St. Joe, so there's that. Now, with all of that recent news out of the way, I've been taking time each week to grade one position on the Chiefs roster. And in this episode, we're going to be shifting our attention to the Chiefs safeties. Now, as we get started, I want to tip my hand and say right off the bat that overall, our defensive backs are, well, they're pretty average. Not bad, but not great. And Pro Football Focus agrees. They recently ranked the Chiefs defensive backs 18th heading into this season. So let's break down the safeties. And of course, we have to start the conversation with Tyrann Mathieu. He's the only player in the league last year who had 275 snaps or more in the 3 positions of corner, free safety, and in the box. He is a Swiss Army knife. From a leadership standpoint, Tyrann adds a fire to the defense. We see that all the time. From a pragmatic standpoint, he allows defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo just unparalleled flexibility. From a statistical standpoint, he had 6 interceptions last season, which was most among safeties and 3rd most among all players. And he added 61 tackles. Yeah, that's why he got AP First Team All-Pro last year. He's incredible. But our other safety position has more question marks. In 2019, the Chiefs drafted Juan Thornhill out of Virginia. As a single-high, pass defense-oriented safety, Thornhill had an incredibly promising rookie season. But during that year, sadly, he tore his ACL in Week 17. Like many players who tear their ACLs, he had a down year last year. He just never got going in 2020. He didn't have quite that burst. Even though he was a starter, he only registered 1 interception and 41 tackles, and his PFF coverage grade regressed from 78 in 2019 as a rookie to just 55.5 in 2020. I really loved Thornhill as a rookie, so I was hoping that going into this season, a full season separated from his injury, he'd return to his rookie form. But unfortunately, it looks like he hasn't got there, since the team has instead decided to start veteran safety Daniel Sorensen, which is why you've been watching Thornhill play with the second and third stringers in the preseason, which is a little sad to me. I really like the guy. Which brings us to Sorensen. Now, Sorensen is a fantastic backup, a great team player, and not a great starter. The positives about him are that he's gritty, he knows his assignments, and he can shift from playing safety to linebacker, which gives the defense flexibility. But the negatives are that he's just too slow to be where he needs to be. Just in case you think I'm picking on him, know that Sorensen ran a shade under 4.7 at the 2014 NFL Draft Combine in the 40-yard dash. Now that puts him in defensive end territory. I mean, he's just not quite athletic enough to be a starter in the NFL, though I like the guy, right? Neither am I. I'm not fast enough to be a starter at any position, I have to admit. But you know what? No one's paying me $2.5 million a year. So I like him, but as slow as he is, he's just a huge liability in the passing game. And again, PFF agrees, grading him at only a 50.1 last season. After Matthew, Sorensen, and Thornhill, a few players are vying to make the final roster. Former Chiefs 4th-round draft pick in 2018, Armani Watts, he just hasn't shown a lot in his career, and he's fighting for his roster spot. Same thing for former Broncos safety Will Parks, who he's had times he's looked really good. He's had times where he's looked really bad in his career. He's talented. He's a pretty good athlete. He just needs to put it all together, but he's fighting for a roster spot at safety. But the player who's interesting is Devon Key. Key was an undrafted rookie this year out of Western Kentucky. After an impressive training camp, he's currently listed as the 2nd string strong safety. That's a tongue twister, which is amazing as an undrafted rookie. Andy Reid has called him smart, Steve Spagnuolo has called him instinctive, and I would add that he has the work ethic and ability to tackle. He's also durable. He started 49 out of 50 games at Western Kentucky, and he has incredible hair. Even if he just ends up being a 3rd stringer, a rookie free agent represents incredible value for the Chiefs. Problem is, though, that just like Sorensen, Key does not have the speed to be a true starter. That's why he wasn't drafted. And it's already been apparent in the preseason. He was the victim of an 80-yard touchdown pass in the first preseason game and the victim of another long touchdown pass against a tight end in the second preseason game. So far, he's made me a little nervous watching him in pass defense in the preseason if he's going to be a 2nd stringer. Because if he is, he's going to see the field. So how should I grade the Chiefs' safeties? Well, I'm going to give him a B. Tyrann Mathieu is an elite player who is bigger than just the safety position. He's an all-pro and it shows. But Sorensen, he's a liability in the pass game as the other starter. And we're not sure what we're going to be getting from Juan Thornhill this year. And you know what? Every one of those other players is a big question mark after those 3. So I am going to give it a B. Thanks for watching the Red and Gold Report. Hey, pause for just a second. You got to hit that subscribe button. That's the only way to make sure you see these weekly updates, and it's the only way to help grow this channel for all of Chiefs Kingdom. Thank you for subscribing, and go Chiefs.